Welcome our viewers in Nigeria and across the world. This is Lunchtime Politics, live on Channels Television. I'm Kayode Okikelu here in Lagos. First, the highlights. Well, it's day 2 of protests by PDP members and supporters in Adamawa State, asking that results collation for the supplementary governorship election resumes and the elections be concluded. And INEC national commissioners meet at the commission's headquarters in the nation's capital, Abuja, to make a decision on the hung election in Adamawa State. And more calls for zoning. This time, a group is asking the President-elect Bola Tinubu and the APC to zone the Senate presidencies to the south-south region of the country. We'll begin with the continuing protests in Adamawa State by members and supporters of the People's Democratic Party over the supplementary governorship election, which is conducted in the state on Saturday. Well, it's day 2 of the protest, which at some point was largely dominated by women, who were the first to converge on the fire service roundabout in Yola, the state capital, bearing placards. Well, the demand is that results collation resumes and the election be concluded. They marched to the State Office of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, located along Galadima Aminu Road, where they were once again stopped from entering the premises by security operatives, mostly police personnel and men of the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps. And more reactions to the Adamawa election. This time, Governor Seyi Makinde of Oyo State is appealing to INEC to do the right thing by declaring the authentic winner of the election. The governor made this appeal shortly after meeting Governor Umar Fintiri, who is also the candidate of the PDP at the government house in Yola. And according to him, the declaration of all the APC candidate as the winner of the election is unimaginable, and urged the electoral umpire to prove its neutrality in Adamawa.
When we heard of all the things going on with the election here, we thought, well, it's best, for me to come here personally, deliver a message of hope to him that he shouldn't worry at all. We know that INEC has enough people of conscience to do what is right for Adamawa State and by extension for our democracy in Nigeria. And I also wish to encourage the people of Adamawa State. They've spoken, and they spoke very loud. And they should be rest assured that the whole world is watching. And they should just be calm. Things will be resolved, and what their decision will be respected by the authorities. It's a shame, really, that somebody of that caliber will, do something like that. But again, we have stories to tell, and we, with time as we evolve, the process of getting people who will do certain things for us will be a little more rigorous, and people like the current REC will have no place in our future democratic process.
Well, staying with the Adamawa governorship supplementary election, just moments ago, all the national commissioners of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, came out of a closed-door meeting, and top on the agenda expectedly is the Adamawa supplementary election. The commission had yesterday withdrawn its delegated powers from Mr. Hudu Yunusa, the resident electoral commissioner, who had declared the result before the conclusion and directed him to stay away from the commission's office in the state. Now, for more on what's going on at the INEC headquarters, we are joined by our correspondent, Victor Matthias, who has been following the closed-door meeting. Good afternoon, Victor. We see that that meeting has since ended, but what more do we know about that meeting and the outcome, perhaps?
Well, absolutely. Good afternoon, Kyrie, again. So, like you can see, I'm standing right in front of the Oval Office at the headquarters of INEC. That is where the closed-door meeting actually took place. So, the meeting has ended. The National Commissioner and Chairman of Information and Voter Education, Mr. Festus Okoye, actually said the Commission is working on a press release, which it would put out soon. So for now, that is the update. But like you said, the meeting was definitely not connected with what was going on or what happened in Adamawa. But for the benefit of doubt, for those who are unaware of what happened in Adamawa, of course, we know that INEC or the REC in Adamawa State announced a result. And of course, INEC has since disqualified that result and also asked the IREC to stay away, from the duties as REC in that. So for now, from the headquarters, we'll be waiting for the press release to come out, which would contain the outcome and the resolutions reached, during this closed-door meeting Friday.
Well, thank you very much, our correspondent Victor Matthias, who is live at the INEC headquarters, ensuring that all of the angles are covered. Thank you very much, Victor, for the update, and please get back to us when you have more.
Trust me to do that, Kyrie. Thanks again.
Well, more breaking news this time from the court, as news coming in has it that the court has stopped the PDP from suspending Governor Nyesom Wike and others over alleged anti-party activities. The Federal High Court in Abuja barred the People's Democratic Party from suspending or expelling Governor Wike and state executive members of the PDP in Rivers State over alleged anti-party activities. In his judgment, Justice Nyangeko held that the fears of these members of the PDP were well-founded and that suspending or expelling them will amount to the breach of their rights to freedom of association. The judge therefore stated that it is in the power of the court to grant redress to persons who have well-established acts that will amount to the infringement of their rights. The members of political parties, the judge says, cannot be suspended arbitrarily without compliance with the political party's guidelines. And more from the court. A Federal High Court in Abuja has reinstated Ifeanyi Ararume as non-executive chairman of the NNPC Limited. The court also nullified and set aside all decisions and resolutions of the board of the NNPCL made in the absence of Mr. Ararume from January the 17th, 2022 till date. Further awards, that's the court further awarded the sum of 5 billion naira in his favor as damages for his wrongful removal and interruption of term of office as a non-executive chairman of NNPC Limited. Well, let's bring you more now. Following the outcome of a supplementary election in Idiato South and Isu state constituencies, youths of the area have staged a protest against INEC, accusing INEC of compromise during the just concluded primary election in the areas. Protesters from Idiato South local government area of Imo State expressed dismay that even after the supplementary election was conducted in a free and fair atmosphere, INEC is yet to declare the result of the election, which according to them was won by the APC candidate. But on the other hand, protesters from Isu State constituencies say INEC erred in declaring the candidate of the PDP the winner of the election, with results garnered from the first election without adding results from the supplementary election.
Our people are worried. The Idato South constituents are worried. The youths are worried. The men are worried. Our party members and faithfuls are worried. The women, the mamas, the papas, everybody, people are worried about the situation. And that is why we have come here to ask INEC again, what is still holding our mandate? Our mandate, the mandate that was freely given. And we have decided to take it upon ourselves that nothing will make them not to release this result to us, because it is the mandate that our people freely gave to Honorable Judge Nduru. The Idato South people, they are peaceful. Our youth are peaceful. We are not restive. That is why, because by virtue of certain sections in the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, we have come to display our displeasure by way of this peaceful protest, to tell the whole world, to tell the Imolites what the Delta South constituents, what our people are suffering in the hands of INEC.
Well, the outcome of the Kogi State governorship primaries of the APC has generated reactions from a representative of Kogi West Senatorial District, Senator Smart Adeyemi, who says that other senatorial districts in Kogi State should be allowed to govern the state and also give room for power rotation. He believes it is wrong to nominate a governorship candidate from Kogi Central because the current governor is from the Central District.
I want my people to govern Kogi because we are not slaves.
All right.
When Sardauna was Premier of Northern Region, Pastor Awoni, a Christian, and no Yoruba man, was his principal private secretary. Why? Because Sardauna at that time believed in one North. So nobody agitates when there's fairness, when you are part of the system. But I am saying, with all the other zones, the Gala people govern for 19 years, then you now have the Central Ibira people govern 8 years, and they want to take another 8 years before it comes to us. We are not a conquered people. If APC should go ahead with their plan, the next governorship election will not be as easy, I think, because we're going to educate our people. Our people are quite educated now, I mean, politically. Election is not going to be, is our party. Election is going to be, who is the candidate? Where is he coming from? What are his antecedents? The guy who is coming is the Auditor General of the local government, and we know all the problems and things that happen in local government that I don't want to go into now. Okay, and I pray they will not push us to start opening some things, some Pandora boxes.
Meanwhile, the State Commissioner for Information, Mr. Kingsley Fowl, disagrees with Senator Smart Adeyemi because he feels he's not in a position to talk about equity and fairness, having been the Senate or in the Senate for 3 consecutive terms.
It is okay for anyone from Kogi West to have the turn to become the governor of Kogi State. Mind you, this person that would come would be the governor of the entire state. The division that we inherited in 2016, we've been able to collapse those walls of division. Nobody's talking about ethnicity anymore, except politicians that want things for themselves. They know that the governor is not nepotic, the governor is not tribalistic. The reason why the governor wanted Senator Smart Adeyemi to go to the Senate in 2019 was because he thought that Kogi will have a fair chance of pushing for the Senate presidency. Right. The candidate has emerged for our party. We are not talking about tribalism. We are not talking about ethnicity. The Kogi people are united behind the candidate of the APC, and by the grace of God on November 11, we shall win that election. If anybody is saying because there was no aspirant from Kogi Central vying for the PDP ticket, are we also saying that there were no aspirants from Kogi East vying for the PDP ticket? Right. We just need to come to equity with clean hands.
Let's head over to the National Assembly now, where the Coalition for Good Governance and Economic Justice in Africa is asking the President-elect and the leadership of the APC to zone the seat of a Senate President to the South-South region of the country. Well, according to the group, this it believes will be in line with equity, justice and fairness to the region, which has not produced a President of the Senate since the nation's return to democracy 24 years ago. Well, the group led by Mr. Kasima Febua spoke to journalists in Abuja.
Thank you very much. I believe that in the spirit of equity, justice and fairness, that the South-South geopolitical zone deserves that number 3 position in the political algorithms of the country. And in arriving at our conclusion and position, we take into cognizance the fact that the South-South geopolitical zone made very huge sacrifices and contribution to the success of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu in the last 2023 February 25th presidential election. We are also taking into cognizance the fact that the South-South geopolitical zone is not just the economic hub of the country, but it's a zone that has since remained the treasure base of the country, and there has to be a deliberate and conscious attempt to pacify the zone at all times to maintain peace, tranquility, and stability.
Well, now that the supplementary elections for the outstanding Senate and House of Representatives seats are over, well, bearing in mind what you just saw, political moves for the leadership contest of the 10th Assembly are now fully in gear. Let's show you what both chambers look like with the conclusion of the supplementary elections. Of course, Civic Hive has been keeping tabs on the result, and here's what the composition looks like. Well, this is for the House of Representatives, by the way. So you see the composition, what it looks like, the color, well, I said the color separation in the House of Representatives. So this was just this morning. The update is just this morning, and I believe that I think, one or so is outstanding, but just take a closer look at that. That is from the Civic Hive, giving us a representation, a pictorial representation of what the 10th National Assembly would look like, particularly for the House of Representatives. 5 seats actually are pending. But let's move over to the Senate now and show you what the Senate looks like. There you go. The Senate, of course, colorful as you would expect, with what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 political parties will be represented in the Senate. So it just gives you a sense of how colorful the 10th National Assembly will be in the coming weeks. But that's not all. Let's take a look at the aspirants for the Senate President and the Speaker of the House of Representatives seat. So contenders for the Speaker, there you see Benjamin Kalu, Sadasoli, Miriam Onoa, Aminu Jaji, Aliyah Betara, Idris Wase, Yusuf Gagdi, Abdurrahim Olawi, and Abubakar Aliman. That's for the Speaker. Let's go over to the Senate now and see some of the contenders for you. There you go. Senator Ojus Okalu, Moses Sani Adams, Osita Ezenaso, Godzilla Pabio, Jibril Barrow, Aliundume, and then you have speculations of current Senate President Ahmed Lawan and former Governor Shomali. They've been speculated. But let's take a deep dive. Let's get into the chamber now and see what it might look like in the coming days and what should be priority in selecting the presiding officers. Channels Television's data analyst, Babajide Oguso, who is now founder, Leadership by Data, joins us right here in our studio, and he'll be doing this one with us on the show. Good afternoon, Babajide. Thank you for joining us.
Good afternoon, Akayode.
So, I mean, we've seen the colors, but beyond the colors are people who represent a wider number of people out there, and you've seen some of these questions, zoning to the southeast, zoning to the south, and all of that. But, I mean, you have a different way of looking at things. So tell us, when you look at the 10th Assembly emerging, what do you see?
Before we look at the 10th Assembly, we'll take a look at the Rubik's Cube, many colors. Kaede.
Exactly. So it represents all of those colors, I guess.
You know, I'll tell you this. It'll be easier for you to understand how to fix this, now for you to understand how the APC wants to sort out its National Assembly leadership positions. It's so complex, really, really so complex. But to simplify it, there are 3 ways. To look at it from the reward perspective, then we can look at it from the performance perspective, and then finally to look at it from the inclusion perspective. Now, I'd like to also look at each of these perspectives.
Reward, performance, inclusion.
Reward, performance, inclusion, that is correct. The first is the reward perspective. What do I mean by the reward perspective? Not only are we at the end of the 2023 general elections, we are at the beginning of the 2027 presidential election.
Already.
Oof. And so from the reward perspective, a lot of APC followers are saying the party should reward the states and the zones that gave it the victory. In simple terms, Lagos, Kano State, going into the presidential election, are the only 2 states that gave the presidential candidate of the APC over 500,000 votes. Lagos, Kano. Still staying on the reward perspective, some people say if they're going to go with the reward perspective, then they should go for the reward perspective based on zones. And so if you look at across southern Nigeria for the APC, top 3 states that gave it the victory in the presidential election: Lagos, Oyo, Ondo. 3 states in the southwest. So based on the reward perspective, the southwest is saying we should determine what happens at the National Assembly.
So that's the second one for the southwest.
That's
first with Lagos alone.
Lagos alone.
Now with the 3 southwestern states.
3 southwest states because they influenced the performance and the victory for the APC, especially now that they have started preparing for 2027. Yeah. Northern Nigeria, reward perspective, Kano, Katsina, Jigawa, those are the 3 states that gave the APC its largest turnout. And so the Northwest are saying we influence victory. For the reward perspective, the North are saying Northwest. Reward perspective, South is saying Southwest. That is the reward perspective. Yeah. Now, there's a second perspective, performance. We've seen the information, 63 senators from the APC. Sorry, 59. Right. Going into this election, the APC had 63. So those that are calling for the reward perspective are saying, let's look at which of the zones have we grown our market share? Which zones have we performed better than we did going into this election? And for the APC, there are only 3 zones that they have performed better in this election compared to what the position they had going into this election. These 3 zones, first, the Southeast. Going into this election, Kayode, the APC had only 3 senators from the Southeast. Now, based on the results we have, the APC has 6 senators.
So Southeast earned them 3 more senators.
3 more senators, that's correct. South-South, going into this election, the APC had 3 senators. Based on the results we have now, the South-South has 7 senators, APC. They are saying 4 more. They've grown their market share. The Southwest are saying going into this election, we had 14 senators. Now, from the Southwest, now the APC has 15 senators from the Southwest. In simple terms, all the senators in Southwest are from the APC, excluding Osun State.
Indeed.
Yes. So, based on the performance perspective, the Southeast are saying we performed good in this election. The South-South are saying we performed good in this election. The Southwest is saying we performed good in this election. Again, look at what's going on in the House of Representatives. From the performance perspective, the Southwest are saying we have the most number of House of Representative members from the Southwest. And they are also saying that because most House of Reps members from the APC are Southwest, they should be able to lead the decision on what goes on the House of Representatives.
So reward performance, but there's the inclusion bit.
The inclusion, and that's the big one. Which
how do you measure inclusion? I mean, these ones you can talk about the figures, but then inclusion, they always say can be maybe subjective. For some other people, they say it's clear to see. So how do you see them navigating this? By the way, I'm not a fan of the Rubik's Cube, so maybe I'll stay away from Rubik's Cube and maybe the politics as well. But how do you see that playing out?
Inclusion is complicated, Kayode. You know, what everybody agrees on is merit. What everybody disagrees on is how do you determine merit? And so that's where inclusion comes in. And 2 cases for inclusion are coming up strong. The first is gender inclusion. Listen carefully to this. 360 House of Representative seats. The APC female representatives, only 6. 6 females. You have 2 from Benue, 2 from Yobe, 1 from Borno, and only 1 from Imo. In simple terms, across all the House of Representative seats in Nigeria, the APC has only 1 female rep across southern Nigeria. Her name, Miriam Onua. And so she's making a strong case that she's performed better than even the men. She said there are 169 available House of Representative seats across all of southern Nigeria, and she's the only female APC representative that has a seat. And so she believes that the party has called for gender inclusion. She should be among the names.
That should count for something.
That should count for something. And she's making a case. There's also the case of Yusuf Gandhi. He's making a case that the party has called for togetherness. The party is saying that they want to bring in all parts of the country together. And Plateau State and Nasarawa State, 2 states in the north-central Kayode that the APC lost. And so Yusuf Gandhi is making a case that one of the ways to show inclusion is to bring in those states, those zones that the party did not win, as a proof that it is going to be including and bringing people together. Plus, he's also trying to make a case, which seems fair, that he's been in the House of Representatives before, and he led the Police Reform Act, the security bill that...
Saying he has passed even more bills than some others.
Yes, he's saying so. He's also jumping on the bandwagon that youth inclusion is 41 years old.
Early 40s.
He's in his early 40s. He's passed a lot of bills. And he's saying that rather than focus on experience, let the party focus on capacity. And so it's a war between experience, capacity. Yusuf Gandhi from Plateau, Pashkin constituency is saying it should be considered. So the summary is, does the party go for inclusion? Yusuf Gandhi's name comes in. Does the party go for female inclusion? You have Miriam Onua from Imo State.
Yeah.
Will the party go for the regions and the states that gave it its largest victory? We're looking at the Southwest and the Northwest. Or will the party go for the places that it performed the best in, especially in the Senate? Southeast,
yeah.
South-South, and Southwest. Again,
complex, Babajide.
Complex, a lot of criteria.
Really, and seeing the pedigree of some of these contenders from the Senate to the House of Reps, some of them former governors. I've seen journalists among them as well, you know, accountants and all. I mean, even Benjamin Kalu, former LG chairman, political advisor to Orji Kalu in the Senate. So, I mean, it just shows how diverse and how much of a pedigree some of these people have. But when you look at the president-elect, the vice president-elect, inclusion is also defined from that, you know, perspective. So for those who say, well, the Southwest has the president, the Northeast has the vice president-elect, they feel that naturally the Senate president and the speaker should not go to those regions anymore. So do you think that trumps the argument of those who say, well, Southwest actually gave you a lot as well?
That doesn't trump the argument, because the priority is which candidates will deliver the policies, the programs, the oversight functions that will make Nigeria a better place. That's the first argument. Now, the second argument is looking across the 6 zones. Though the president is from the Southwest, the vice president from the Northeast, the sitting House of Representatives, Speaker of House of Reps is from the Southwest, each region has a case to make. Don't forget, for the voters have seen this election as the curtains have been closed. We're now at the end of the 2023 elections. But for the politicians, it's the beginning of 2027. And they want votes. So do you want to pick your leaders from a region where you are minority? Or do you want to pick your leaders from the regions where you are stronger? If you pick your leaders from the region where you are strongest, what message does this send to the minority zones? Again, look at how complicated it is. We have the opposition, especially a lot of opposing voices coming from the Southeast. So does the party want to say, yes, going into this election, we had 3 senators from Southeast, we now have 6. Should we go with the Southeast? We had 3 senators from the South going into this election, we now have 7. Should we go with the South-South? Going into this election, we had 14 senators from the Southwest, now we have 15.
You know, we can go on and on with these figures, and clearly the Rubik's Cube looks good, but it just paints a picture of how complex this is.
It'll be easier for me to fix this than to fix and to predict what is going to happen.
I like to watch you fix that.
By the end of the day, some zones are critical. All zones are critical, but fairness, equity, and justice should prevail. We want to see youth representation. We want to see, hopefully one day, your face.
Okay, well, I'm a journalist, and that stays for now. I would like to thank you so much, Babajide Ogunsawo, Channels Television's data analyst, founder of Leadership by Data. Always a pleasure having you.
The pleasure is mine, Coyote.
Well, that's been the show. Hey, we'll probably get to the Rubik's Cube in a moment, but you've been served. I'm Coyote Okikulu. Goodbye.